Hi, this is Marie Roker-Jones with Compassion Convos, and today we are talking with Gabriella van Rij about a smartphone, cyberbullying, cyber torment, and I love the title that Gabriella has selected for today's blab, which is our smartphones a weapon in the wrong hands, because I think it's so good for us, for parents, for everybody to really get a better understanding of the fact that technology is not the problem, but that the real, problem is that how we use technology in our world. And we had a wonderful conversation with Gabriella last week where we talked about everything from bullying to kindness to really getting into looking at ourselves and self-compassion and what goes into what we consider the bullying, I guess, how do we, the environment, not just the bully and the victims, but also the bystanders, how they play a role in this. So Gabriella is kind enough to join us again this week so that we can continue this conversation. And this is something that she speaks to this at schools. She's an activist. She is an author. She's, you're so many things. I don't know. How many titles do you have, Gabriella? But definitely, you could definitely and find out more about her by visiting her website and following the hashtag. You can find her at gabriella.global, but also following the hashtag Dare to Be Kind. And is it Pick Up the Ball?
Yeah.
Pick Up the Ball, it's a cool little phrase she uses about how we drop the ball on certain things and how everybody can be part of picking up the ball. We all understand what that means in the context of when we're doing things. So Gabriella, I'm gonna have you take this away. I'm gonna be tweeting and listening to you as in this conversation, but I definitely want you to lead this conversation because I think it's so important for parents, educators, and even teens if they're watching.
Okay, super. Well, the first thing really about this whole cyberbullying is that I've honed the word cyber torment. Kids, adults, all of us seem to tune out when we hear the word bullying. And it doesn't matter that right now is Bullying Awareness Month, because I think that there are many, many people that actually really don't know that. So let's forget the word bullying today, and let's really talk about what torments people and what is it that the cyber world, the technology gave us a tool to augment, in a way, the amazing ability to humiliate one person even more. Sorry, that's the GPS telling us where to go.
Yeah, no problem.
And this very beautiful voice, just comes out of nowhere. But so anyway, one of the things that I think for everyone that's listening needs to understand this is the technology is not to blame for anything, but it is there, and we use it to make sure that everyone is humiliated at a level that we have never seen before. And I know I touched on it about values, ethics, and standards. But before I start that, I think what is really interesting is that the children gave me the word torment because that's how they say that they feel. And I always say that our children, meaning every child, when they suffer, I'm not saying that every single child, but when they suffer behind closed doors. And that is an interesting concept. And again, for all the listeners out there, they can really learn something today, because what is it that we can do? Now, I'm just as much to blame as anyone else. If I had a young child tomorrow who's 12 years old, I would want my child to have a smartphone. I would not buy it a flip phone knowing that it would be teased merciless for having a flip phone, besides the fact that you can't text on it real easily. So, having said that, as a parent, now comes the big point here, and that is I really believe that the parent needs to be involved. You can't just give the object of desire at the one hand, because that's the way the children feel, and then say, there you go, great, write the note, get in touch with you whenever you want. The child starts to text the mother to see if dinner is ready from their bedroom. I mean, hello, where are we?
No, you're right.
We live on. It's not like, I always think of that movie, E.T. Go Home, I mean, we're not there. We're people. We communicate with laughter, with face to face. It's fun. And so when we give this cell phone and we think our job is done as parents, I want everyone to wake up. When I say smartphones are a weapon in the wrong hands, I mean that. And a smartphone, obviously, without someone behind it driving the information on the cell phone, is not going to harm anyone.
Yeah.
But it is harming to the person that's being attacked through it. So what if we take a child, and I'm going to go really young here, okay? 8 and 9. And they are at school, and they all have smartphones, and they're telling me the young ones are on Facebook and on Instagram. So the parents don't know that. So you have just given something that you think is a convenience for you, but you forgot that they're full-fledged computers. So this is my biggest thing here. You can't just give it and hope, oh, well, they know more than I do. It must be fine. Why think that way? None of us. Can you imagine if your son tomorrow is 16? I know he's only 4, right? You told me.
Well, I have an older one who's 17, so yeah.
Okay. So, can you imagine that you let your 17-year-old drive a car without ever having to learn the code of conduct of the road?
No, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see, I'm creating it, but I would love people to jump on board with me. I would love to create a code of conduct on ethics on the internet. But not ethics like what is morally right and wrong. I don't want to get into that. That's not my passion, That's culture related and age related. What I want to touch on is how can we, you and I, how can we make a difference by teaching by example? How can we, let's say that tomorrow that you read on my timeline in Facebook or in LinkedIn or anywhere that someone says, oh, Gabriella really isn't carrying the ball of kindness. I think she's a fake. And the reason I'm saying that is this was on my timeline a month ago.
Wow.
By someone I did not know.
Okay.
And all this was an action-reaction. Remember, we touched on that. Action of the other person. She had seen me comment on a friend of hers. I commented, it made me laugh, and then it made me really sad. And it was a picture of a homeless man and a picture of a veteran. And the homeless gets the money, I mean, it was showing that he was holding up money, and the homeless was getting the money and not the veteran that had served his country. And it made me really sad. But the way I expressed it, I think I did a really good job, because my instinct was, oh, yeah, why did I just laugh? And I wrote all that. So I was very honest with my communication. It made me laugh. The picture had that, because it's true. And because it's true, we are often embarrassed, right? And so the embarrassment was really there. But what happened was she didn't read that. All she did was react on that first word that I wrote, which was I laughed. And I then started a private conversation with her. Now, what's very interesting is the friend in between that knows both of us defriended her, and I didn't want her to do that. See, we need to lead by example. So what I did is I sent her a private message and I said, I'm really about kindness. I wish you would read the message one more time again. Please just read it calmly. And then she said, I'm sorry, I did not know. And she said, but why did the other person react so violently towards me again? And I said, because everyone is protecting someone else now.
Yeah.
You protect me and what I do with the ball of human kindness and the Dare to be Kind message. And you said it's so awful that her only choice is to say, oh my gosh, I don't want a friend like that on Facebook.
Exactly.
But what we do, and this is adults right now, what we do is we jump to conclusions. Now, while we jump through all these hoops of, oh, he did, she did, and oh my gosh, and can't everyone see that how much I'm trying to protect a vet? No, we keep being mean. Everyone
in the cycle
was mean. And I didn't go public with it. I actually addressed it privately with her. And everything was deleted afterwards and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying this is just an example of millions of examples. I mean, I do not have an American passport. I'm Dutch. But I cannot imagine writing something awful about your president.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. I don't care what bill he signed. I do not care what was done.
Yeah.
Because everyone forgets is it takes the whole Congress, it takes the whole House to come to these decisions.
But people forget it.
Yeah, but I don't, because I actually really like politics. Bobby, my manager, who's kind enough to drive me to my next media appointment, said, you know, if everyone just did their part, if people didn't jump to conclusions to say, oh, he's so bad. We always want the other person to be bad, and we want us, and I think this part is really important, we want us to be right. See, she lost a friendship on Facebook because she had to be right, the other woman.
Yeah.
And so when I say smartphones are weapons in the wrong hands, the hands are often ours too. It's not just our children. So here we are. We'll take the same example. Let's say that I go to school, I write something, it's misunderstood, and this is kids, so it's different, and I get bullied. And I get cyber tormented because everyone is taking everything out of context. And before I know it, there's 200 people on Facebook that say that I'm a terrible human being and that I'm not worthy. And what if I start to believe this? And then I get the cold shoulder when I go to school. And then it continues and continues. And that is the part that nobody seems to get. It escalates on a level that everyone just chimes in, right?
Yeah.
I always say in my speaking engagements, it's not the 30 people in your classroom that heard this, but it's 300, 3,000, 300,000, 3 million people just saw your humiliation. And I wish parents could get that. Sometimes I do sketches at school, right? And we film them. And one time they were filmed and it was about cyber tormenting. And it was filmed and it was a boy-girl thing, you know. I hope you don't love her anymore because I'm with you now, and you know, and she's a bitch and those kind of and we had to because we wanted to make it look real, and these are teenagers. So I told them, don't hold your words back because I've heard it all, unfortunately. And so what happened was this went, I mean, obviously not viral, but it went everywhere. We hadn't even finished eating. So whatever I had asked them to text on Instagram and Snapchat, it took a life on it of its own. And that I had the press there, we had parents at the school, and only one parent knew about it. Nobody. Because nobody befriends their children on the internet.
Yeah, well, on their social media profiles. I remember when my oldest son wanted to be on Facebook, and we told him the one condition was that he had to friend us first, and that was just like torment for him. But the truth is, we wanted to monitor, but I think what happens with parents and what the difficulty is as they get older. So, for example, now he's 17. So to really keep track of what a 17-year-old is doing is difficult
Oh,
because this is somebody on embarking on adulthood, and you don't want to micromanage everything, but at the same time, you still want to be present. You still want to be aware. And I love the visual you show. I just tweeted it of a child standing, on the highway with their phone, and that's exactly what it's like. There's so much information coming in. I remember. Lisa Word and I were talking once about how the home, used to be growing up in our generation, our community, our neighborhood. Those were the people we knew that was coming into our homes, that we were going to their homes. Now you don't know whose information is being sent to your child, so it becomes so difficult to keep track. And it's so easy to say this person's my friend because I know them through social media. So friendship has even taken a different type of meaning for young people. It's no longer the same way. And the thing that we tend to neglect, or maybe not pay so much attention to, is that through our smartphones, through our tablets, whatever we're using to connect with others, we are basically allowing people into our lives and getting into their lives. And it's very easy, as you mentioned, to make this judgment call without knowing people because they wrote something. And it's funny how when somebody makes a mistake or says something out of context, everybody just jumps on that person, right? It becomes this easy target to say you're wrong, you're bad, you're this, and now we're going to take you down.
but the human behavior is also to follow the group, right? It's
Yeah,
that see, if it's one-on-one, or even if there's only two or three, one will chime in and say, no, this is not nice. Come on.
yeah,
But when it's a whole group, it's what they call a really gang up. And I think that's
exactly,
phenomenon. We see that on social media all the time. All the time. Look at the
exactly.
debates. Just look at how incredibly awful all of us adults are when it comes down to a couple of subjects. We
Oh
cannot
yeah.
talk about abortion, we cannot talk about religion, and we cannot talk about politics. It's
Or
impossible.
sexuality
It's
becomes,
impossible because we're going to get into a fight with people that we really, really like because everyone wants to be right and nobody is actually willing to listen to
oh
maybe a
no.
total new way of looking at things or a new experience,
Mm-hmm.
someone else could bring to the table. And if we do that, what do our kids do? Like, for example, do you know all the new apps that have come out in the last 3 months?
I know some of them. I try to keep up with the apps just simply because I do have a teen, and I try to just stay abreast of what's new, what they're using. But even with that, I'm still behind. Like I can't even say, oh, I'm up to date on everything.
So tell me, what is your teen use the most? Snapchat?
Oh, Snapchat.
Yeah.
Snapchat and Kick.
And Kick. But they forget that with Snapchat, I'm pretty handy with the smartphone. So I take in 1 second a picture of the picture,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because they say, oh no, it's gone, and I go, no, it's right here.
It's and I'm going to share the first. Dr. Vibe had a question. He said, "What are some of the best practices that parents can do to prevent their kids from cyberbullying?"
Okay. I have the first one. Please befriend your children. 2, if you feel that is really difficult, then my second is ask your child to show you how to use an app. They love it. The kids
Yeah.
actually tell me, I love doing that. Let's do it. So that's number 2. And number 3, really listen to them. And you know how you can listen to them? by starting a conversation yourself of something that you saw someone do. How easy it is for any of the parents at this moment to say, wow, I saw something awful about a politician, and that's a real shame. For example, just open up the conversation about ethics online, about how easy it is to put someone down that's trying to do something positive. Like you have to show, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy for someone else to say, well, Marie, that's easy. But they never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like your topic. I think you should do something else.
Oh, yeah. Everybody has an opinion.
So if they have an opinion, then they can go elsewhere. But they're allowed an opinion without being, what is it that you always say, Bobby? You say that they're very opinionated, but they're allowed an opinion, but not to, gosh, she has something really beautiful. She's too concentrated here. But I'll try to let you know through Twitter. But it's that part. We're allowed to have opinions, but we're not allowed to destroy the other person. So as parents, why don't we teach that? Why don't we give an example of something that we see online and then use it and ask your team, how does that work for you in everyday life? Are there things that you pertinently see as a bystander and you do nothing? Now don't say it neatly. Say it in such a way that he or she understands that you do the same.
Exactly.
And what is it that we can do? And I bet you anything, most of them go, wow, I can become an active witness. Even online, everyone can become an active witness. When I see something terrible about our president, I really say, would everyone just stop and think for 2 moments? Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
At least he's trying something. I don't care if he's not succeeding. I care.
You're right.
I care that we try. We, all of us, I know it firsthand, so do you, I'm sure. We fall flat.
No, it's true.
Anyone who's a parent knows that we fall flat on our faces and we get straight back up. Because why? We have a passion for our kids. We want to get back on that saddle. And that's exactly the same we need to do. That passion that we have to keep our own children alive, we need to use a little bit more on a social platform and say, let's help all of them.
Gabriella,
Yeah.
It's okay to have an opinion, but we don't need to form a judgment.
That's it. It's okay to have an opinion, but it's not good to only form a judgment.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and it's so true. I'm going to tweet that out from you. Elisa Word added, technology gives people a false sense of reality in thinking they know people based on their words on the screen. It can be really hard, especially with kids. That's a great point, Elisa, about that. It's like this idea that I know you based on what you share, but we don't share our whole entire life, right? We share what we feel.
Don't share a blink.
Exactly.
Blink of an eye. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, can you say that again?
You want me to repeat it? Okay.
Yeah, what Bobby said.
Well, basically, I say that it's okay to form
an
opinion,
but
it's not okay to make a judgment.
But it's not okay to make a judgment. And I'd
That's
love
true.
to chime in on the judgment part, okay? I'm going to tell you something really fun. When you're ready. Okay. On the judgment part, Harvard University did a study a couple of years ago that in less than 0.001 millisecond, we judge.
Wow.
Now, why don't we put that little nugget of information as parents? The gentleman asked you what parents could do. So why don't we take that and say to children, we judge automatically. It's part of our brain system, however we I don't know how to call it. You know what I mean? The way we're wired. That's the word.
Yeah.
So
It's
why
natural.
don't we teach that we are wired to judge, but that we don't have to verbally be open about it. We can keep that to ourselves until we get to know the person. And then make our own opinions if that person becomes our friend or not.
Yeah.
You don't have to be disrespectful.
Well, and I find that it's, we talk a lot about kids, but what I find most interesting is that it's adults that a lot of times are misbehaving with, when there's celebrities making these negative comments and being so mean. And so then kids are watching this, and we tend to be hypocrites, right? Because we're telling kids, be nice. But then we're saying something about forming an opinion about a celebrity. And I want to touch also on what you mentioned about, the gang mentality. I'm going to look at, for example, at what happened with Lamar Odom. In the past, people jumped on calling him a crackhead and making jokes about him and saying he's an addict and everything. But once he was in the hospital, then there was this this outpouring of love now, right, and sympathy of we feel sorry for what's happened. And I remember somebody tweeted, well, where was all this love before, when you were making jokes about, and we don't think about that, and it's very easy for all of us. We think that I have something I want to share. I have an opinion I want to share. And it's sometimes coded in judgment. But we try to think, no, it's not a judgment, it's my opinion. But we are judging. And as you said, we all form judgment is part of nature. It's not something we're just going to judge people based on their appearance. We're going to judge people on how they speak. And that's just what we do.
But dare to be kind is more difficult than it is actually to have an opinion and be mean.
Yeah.
It's actually for children and adults. It's faster out of their mouth or off the typewriter. If you ask most adults to reread their post before they hit enter, I bet you they wouldn't hit the enter.
Oh yeah. And I think there's a new app for that kind of helps with teens and tells them, do you really want to send this out? Like, you can download it. Elisa added, sadly, people don't always teach kids the difference between opinion and judgment. Subsequently, these become the same people who grow up and don't teach their kids, thus repeating the cycle. And that's very true. It's like, I can judge all day, and I'm going to, again, code it as, this is my opinion, but it's really a judgment. And then there's this idea that being snarky is cool, right? That being snarky is funny, and that I didn't mean that. I hear that a lot. I didn't mean it. I was just being funny, but you were being funny at someone's expense. And so then that's another way in which using our smartphones and using social media can get out of hand, is when this idea of, oh, that wasn't meant to be mean. I was just being funny. I was just teasing. So you're being too sensitive. So then, it becomes this vicious cycle.
But I think all our comedians out there,
I know.
I mean, our television.
All our comedians, she's chiming in by saying television, period. She's right. But if I look at the comedians, we started this generations ago that we made fun of someone, right? Mm-hmm. And whether it was a culture, but we made fun of people. And when we did that, we got the laughter, right? Yeah. The stand-up comedians say something about politics and the whole audience is laughing. But I think that in the setting where it is socially acceptable. And this is where I'm saying etiquette. I think we don't understand what we can and not saying if it's not taught. So the lady that wrote here, sadly, people don't teach the kids the distinction between opinion and judgment. It's the same thing. We're back to what are etiquettes? What is it? We need to learn to behave. I saw a post the other day of Richard Gere. It happened to be on my timeline through someone else. And his post said, what happened to the people that, oh my goodness, it was someone. I grew up shaking hands, saying hello, saying thank you. And I thought, but he's a parent too, and I grew up the same way. But somewhere we forgot it, and I think we forgot it because the kids today have no consequences. If I had answered any of my parents' friends with no, you want something to drink? No.
True.
I'm sorry, Mary, I would have had huge consequences. Huge. So I think that is a question we need to ask in this conversation. How come nobody has consequences for their actions? Nobody. Bobby flew here to California from Chicago, and she said in the security lineup, someone was ill. I mean, ill. Was throwing up, and people were taking pictures of it. I mean, how can you? That's yuck. I mean, and it's not like anyone needed to help because they had already called the paramedics. There was someone there. They were just trying to deviate. You know,
and it wasn't kids taking the pictures.
And it wasn't. Oh, did you hear her? It wasn't the kids taking the pictures. So. I'm sorry, but I do not need to put on my timeline someone that gets sick in the security line.
That is crazy. But I mean, it's crazy.
But that's where we're at. I think everyone thinks that they're their own journalist. Everyone thinks that they have something important to post, to share. I'm not going to share with you what I'm eating tonight because the truth is, A, I don't know it yet, and B, I'm sure it's not that interesting. But that's where we're at. We really, and I feel that it is because in us, our lives are truly not fulfilled. We are truly such an empty spot that we need to stalk people that we don't know at all on the internet. The other day, someone said, "Do you know so-and-so? He or she talked about you." And I said, the truth is, I know very few people on my social media. Some I really do, some I really don't. But it's also nature of what I do. But I don't write on there. For me, my social media has nothing to do with, oh, I have a stomach ache today. My social media is to get the message of Dare to Become Them and to educate and to bring awareness to the masses. And wow, what a good way to educate through social media. Yeah. But again, we seem to live our lives through other people. And I think the kids see that too. I remember something very distinctive about my team. Something that I thought was very annoying. And I punished dearly for it. I'm going to give you the example. Oh, what are you doing this Friday night? Oh, I don't know. I have plans with this one, and this one. And then I would say, well, who got the prize? Who did you say yes to? No, I said to every single person, maybe. I mean, I must have looked so stupid, Marie. I mean, I just went, huh? Yeah, what if something better comes along? And I said, what? Are these your friends? And she said, yeah, but what if? And oh my goodness, I punished. I said, you make up your mind right now. You have two choices, young lady. Whoever asked you and you said yes to the first one, that's the one you're going out with, or you can stay home. I told her.
Good for you.
And oh my God, she stayed home. She was so mad at me. And she said, you have no right to interfere.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, as long as you're under my roof, unfortunately, I can interfere. And I'm trying to teach you etiquette. This cannot be done because for your girlfriend, that's terrible. And I presumed it was a girlfriend. Right? Yeah. And I said, you're just waiting till the popular boy asks you out in the hope. Now, I hope that I teach you something by this. that you will respect your girlfriends, because in the future, when you're a woman,
Exactly. Good for you.
you need to depend on other women. And if you don't learn that lesson at a young age, and of course she was pretty, all these teenagers are pretty, so they hope. But I said, it's not nice, because what if she feels inadequate because you said no, and she'll find out that you went out with a boy and that you said no to her. What an awful feeling for anyone.
No, but it's true. And we have to teach that, because then you become the woman that says, oh, I'm going to drop my friends once I have a man, right? And then you need your friends, and it happens because it's this idea of what I think this generation too looks at what's coming along that's better. It's always, I'm not going to commit to anything because there's something great maybe coming around the corner. But then again, as you mentioned, etiquette, that doesn't go out of style. And I don't know why it's changed. Well, I mean, everything's changed, but it doesn't mean that we have to stop being who we are and stop treating people with respect and treating relationships with respect. I think that's where it becomes a little dicey, where teens just feel like, hey, you know what? This is how things are. And maybe it does happen in your generation, but in our generation, we don't take it that seriously. But it's still about being polite, by being respectful. Those things have nothing to do with time. They're endless. It's timeless.
I asked other parents what they thought of what I had done, and they thought it was way too severe.
Really? I'd love to, Lisa, I don't know if you're still on. What do you think of that? I don't think it's severe. I think it's giving her, setting that foundation for saying, hey, you know what? This is how you treat, and she's going to remember that. She's going to remember that, because you know what? If it happened to her, she wouldn't like it. It wouldn't feel good. And so, no, that's not harsh. And I think that's where it is too. Like, we get this idea of, I don't want to be harsh. I don't want to be too much in my child's business. I don't want to be, I want to give them freedom. But freedom in their generation and ours is totally different. I think they have so much more.
I'd love for you to tweet us when you were just talking. I think we're trying to be not the educator anymore of our children, but we try to be their friend. And that's, I think,
that
the line
is so true.
Very, very blurred. We try to be the friend of our children. And the truth is, we can't do both. We become friends when we're adults. And yes, does that mean that we sometimes clash? Of course. But,
no, I think you're right. You're absolutely right.
You're not their friend. That's why they have a social setting at school. Okay? Within the family structure, there needs to be consequences to their actions. And if we're not going to do that, if I'm going to be my daughter's friend, I'm going to have that child that Richard Gere talked about that nobody wants to have as a neighbor, right? Because they haven't been taught to put their music down. They haven't been taught to clean an apartment. They haven't been taught any of these things. And come to think of it, did you hear the news this morning?
The
Southwest Airlines had to deviate. They left LAX last night at, I'm just going to say something, 10:30, 10:15. It was a flight from LAX to San Francisco. The lady sitting in front of a gentleman, you say the word recline, right? Reclined, I speak too many languages, sorry. Reclined her seat back, and the man started choking her.
What?
Yes, I love your reaction. Thank you. You should have seen mine. And I instantly said to Bob, I hope you don't mind, but I have 5 interviews this week. I'm going to use this. What is wrong with us? What is wrong?
Oh, dear God.
And this is what I said last time to you. Nobody strikes coming from a positive place. Nobody. So this
is crazy.
Gentleman he had a choice. His choice could be, hey lady, I'm so bad. I know you want to relax. It's an evening flight, but I have no sleep.
I can't even believe this. I'm like, sharing it right now. It's just so
Look
crazy.
it up, Southwest. They arrived. They went back to LAX. They stopped air control because they were the first plane that landed. Because you know that everything is timed. They're
So
like
crazy.
clockwork. So that flight came straight back in 13 minutes later. And I think the pilot would not want to put anyone else in danger, because if someone does that, you never know what else they're going to do on the flight, right?
Yeah. That's so crazy. I mean, think about that. I just shared that. I mean,
But he put 136 people. I mean, the consequence of his action hurted 136 other people that arrived at 1 in the morning local time. That's like hours of delay. Because he decided that he was more important. But
wow. Well, I mean, and that's the thing, this idea that what I say, what I do is more important than you, right? It's we get so caught up in my needs. Like, we've become a society that focuses on our needs. What are my needs at this moment? Well, he could have addressed that in so many ways that was nonviolent, one, that was respectful of her boundaries and his.
I know.
But to take such a course of action just to state his whatever position, whatever it was, like, good gosh, I tell you. And see, it's things like this that we hear about that kind of makes us become frightened and become like, okay, everything is bad. But it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
But
The problem is we have.
lose the positive things that happen.
There you go.
Nobody really wants to put that in the news, so we don't hear about it as much.
Yeah.
You don't 3,000 comments under something positive.
No.
And it's really interesting. The lady here wrote, I think it's a lady.
Elisa, yeah.
Yeah, we have to take a stand with our kids and help them understand boundaries. But this is the big thing. Who is going to teach boundaries? I think.
Well, we don't even do it. We don't even do it sometimes.
But that's why I think it's so difficult. See, Bobby and I were talking because I teach all the time things, and we were talking about, I'm preparing for my podcast, my video podcast that I'm doing. And I talk about power, right? What is it in us adults that we're afraid of our boss, and that we, and Bobby and I were discussing when I was writing the content of the podcast, we give our own power away.
Yeah.
So we give it away to someone else, but then we resent that person afterwards. But there was no reason to give it away. It's not, I'm going to say something totally off topic, but I just saw the blip appear, like you see blips appear on the social, on the highway. And it said Oprah bought 10% stocks of Weight Watchers, and instantly everything had gone up. See, someone gave her that power.
Yeah.
You can stay and buy something else. You don't have to be these blind followers.
And that's the problem. We become, so many of us, not all of us, but we've become blind followers where we just say, you know what, this sounds good, this looks good, this sounds right, this seems right, I believe this, or I don't believe that. So we just, it's very easy to stop having your own thought. It's very easy to stop being able to think for yourself, because there's so much information overload that you start to think, okay, this is right. I don't have to dig into anything. How much research, I think they said people are Googling so much now that they're not able to become critical thinkers. They're not critically thinking because they rush to find the answer on Google, as opposed to trying to process it and think, what is the correct answer? And we have to think about what happens to kids if that becomes the norm. If it becomes the norm that I'm just going to look up Wikipedia as opposed to, or I'm just going to Google it, as opposed to thinking for myself, what is the correct, what is this really?
I'm glad you just said that. She was chiming in. Do you still know what you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think that most people give their power away, give that power to someone else to make their decisions, because then it's not their fault when it all fails or doesn't go the way we want it.
Very true. That's true. I don't have to be accountable for what went wrong because I gave my power away,
It wasn't me. I didn't do it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That is absolutely true, Bobby. It wasn't me. And they hide behind that.
Yeah, it's like you said, Gabriella. Then we're mad because, someone else is making the decision that we're actually insisting they do. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like somebody else did that. Oh, yeah. Well, they told me to do that.
You don't want to be responsible.
One of the things I love what you just said is when I speak in book clubs, and especially book clubs of people 60 and above, I always tell them, the hands go up. I always ask who's a grandmother or grandfather already. Hands go up. And I always say, please, 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 please don't think you have no value. You are invaluable to your grandchildren. Please. Many of them ask me, how do I speak to a grandparent? Because they dare to talk to you easier than the parents, but they don't know
true.
how.
That's so true.
Yeah, I said, would you be so kind as to start talking to them about topics like sexuality, going out for the first time on a date, anything and everything. And they say to me, you sure they're not going to laugh at me? Because they look it up on Google and they have the answer. And I said, but Google doesn't give them next to the advice is always a story, right?
Yeah.
The story is missing in Google. It has the hard, cold facts of the definition, which is not necessarily the story of the grandparent behind it, which is
it's a big deal.
That is such a big deal. And they light up.
But the parents always say, don't tell grandma.
No, but it's funny because like my son, he would rather hear my mom's stories than my stories, and I'll be honest, it's like it's your parent, so.
But do you know when he wants to hear your story? Only when he
When what? I didn't hear.
When that generation goes, when they're thinking about kids and they're going that direction.
Yeah. When he becomes an adult, he'll probably say, "Oh, my mom's story."
It's still a little bit early.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Right now, it's not. It's totally all about my mom and her stories. And granted, she has better stories than me. So hey, but we have to preserve storytelling too, and not lose that. And because of the growing use of technology, we're not talking as much, right? I can count how many times I use my cell phone to actually speak to someone. Most of the times I'm texting or sending a message. It's rare that I'm picking up the phone to call. I'm laughing because I'm like, my home phone rarely rings to the point where I'm like, do I even need it?
Oh,
really, because we're so used to the just texting people or sending a message or whatever, that it's really older generations that I'm on the phone with. But most of my friends, we're sending each other messages, we're texting, or we make do a quick call on the cell phone. But there's that idea of having conversations of those are, when you're younger, you had a girlfriend or boyfriend, you stay on the phone for how many hours on the phone, right? I mean, do they do that anymore? I don't even know. But
they don't do that
Exactly.
I just wanted for the person that asked for advice for parents, teach the children not to break up with each other over a text message. In a text message.
Definitely.
Teach them to have respect. I really...
That's the worst. Or break a date. Or break a date over in a text or message.
It's a miscommunication. I don't text well. I make too many mistakes. But even Bobby knows when I text her, you know, I mean, she sometimes said, "What did you try to say there?" I prefer to pick up the phone.
Yeah, because it's going to be, it could be misconstrued as anything. Like, okay, what did she mean? Are you mad? Are you, you know, it's...
But I couldn't imagine having a date.
Oh, that's horrible.
14 and then get a no. The same through a text message. That's devastating.
And shouldn't ask for a date in a text. I think. I could be wrong, but I think that it opens up the opportunity to maybe get that no. You know, I think you should. There's a lot of things. If you want to talk, you know, there's so many things. It's so convenient, yes, but at the same time, it becomes a clutch for, you know, a crutch. I should say not clutch, but a crutch for us because we're just like, oh, I could just do this. It's easy. It's fast. I don't want to, you know. And I'll be honest, I find myself doing that when I'm calling someone. I'm like, I hope they don't pick up. You know, I hope they don't pick up so I can just send them a text.
We are instant gratification. We live in a world with gratification. That's why I wanted to make that poster. It's the same, you know, I mean, the picture I just bought, but then I had the artist who drew, in my second book, drew the girl. Because that's how
awesome. Yeah.
Look like at the moment. And because girls are even, I know people don't believe me, but I see this all the time, is the girls are on a notch level of meanness that surpasses the males by
leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds. Yes.
I think for guys, bullying is usually physical, or it's, you know, it's they kind of make it seem like, oh, you know what, I'm just, you know, we're just having fun.
That I wouldn't say anymore. The boys is social media.
Really? Wow.
Boys through social media. They call the boys gay.
Yeah, well, that's been going on for so long, and that's like the easiest thing to do. You know, it seems to be the first thing they go for is, I'm going to target your sexuality.
As a parent, it's odd. I get then a look at this age that says to me, "I've never had sex before, so I don't know." And I'm like, I hope not.
Oh gosh. Well, oh, Gabrielle, we lost you. I think it says poor internet signal. Maybe you hit a rough spot, but I mean, you're still there, audio. I'm gonna close it out. What would you say? What's a message you would give as far as how to handle, how we as adults should set the example for not just smartphones, but how we conduct ourselves online?
Be sensitive to our children. Really be sensitive. Be a little bit more empathetic. When the children try to talk to you, put your cell phone away.
Oh yeah, my gosh.
That's my first advice. Put yours away. And be sympathetic. Don't instantly go into that you don't want them to do that, or you don't want to hear this.
Answers.
And
You're back.
Let them talk. That's really a big one for me. I hear it every single day for the children. Please ask my parents to listen.
Wow, that's sad.
I have boys as young as 8 years old that say my mom is on her cell phone 24/7. She pays no attention, whether we have dinner or not.
Wow.
And one of the things that I hear from many, many, many children out there is dinner is always on the run.
Wow.
Could we bring that back? the sit-down dinners would be so nice.
Yeah, that's one thing we do, the sit down, and I didn't realize how valuable it is until I saw that was our downtime to connect. That's our downtime to just be silly, to just talk, and even if we're not having a deep conversation, it's our time, and we enjoy it, we cherish it, and whether it's just the three of us, sometimes my husband's not around, it's just the three of us, or sometimes my little one doesn't want to eat, so it's just my teen and I. We still just try to make that about us and not let no technology interfere with it.
Yeah. So that's really important. Those three things: be empathetic, make the time, and put those cell phones away. And if you can, even if you have to go through fast food, don't do the drive-through. Just sit there.
Sit down.
For
15
minutes and just eat with your child. Even if it's not a meal. And don't take that slice of pizza and everyone goes to 20 different corners.
To their own rooms. Yeah, to their own place. Yeah. Well, and it's hard. And I'll say it's hard because teens send you such mixed messages, right? Like, they send you I don't want to be bothered. But they do. But they want to be bothered and their time.
They really do want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe not about school, but just in general. So what did you do? And, they do try to look what you're doing. Because that's the only way for them to learn something.
Yeah, and they do want your time. It's just that they don't know. They don't always want to initiate it. They want you to initiate that conversation. Yeah.
And as a last word, tell your kids that they're good kids.
Yeah.
Don't wait till they have a grade that's amazing. Don't wait till someone recognizes them in a sports event or they get a diploma. Just tell them.
That's a good point. That's true.
You think they're great human beings.
Just a little reinforcement. No, those are great points. I mean, and things that are simple enough that we forget in our busy everyday lives. We forget that these little things so matter for, to our kids, and they're important to us because we need the reminder that we're doing okay as parents and that it's not perfect, but we're working through and we're doing what we need to do. Gabriella, again, I really enjoyed speaking with you tonight.
Thank you.
Please follow Gabriella on Twitter and check out her website and do tweet to Dare to Be Kind and pick up the ball, and let's make this a movement. Compassion Convos is about challenging bias through compassionate action. So let's make this a movement and support what Gabriella is doing. And again, anytime you want to come back, let's have a conversation and let us know what you're doing. Let me know what you're doing.
Once the podcasts are up, and maybe we can do something about the word power and authority.
Yeah, and feel free to ever, join us tomorrow. We're actually going to be having a blab with the Good Men editors on what is a good man. So if you're around, definitely come in and join us on that conversation. I'm sure you'll have a lot to offer on that too. So anytime, you see us on blab, please feel free. And I definitely let us know what you're doing so we can share too, so that we can always. So have a great and safe trip. And we'll see you again. Don't forget to check out Gabriella.global. And thank you, Elisa, for sharing your messages. And I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. And thanks, Bobby.